These are the Swiss Alps, and people have been living in, on, and around them for over 10,000 years. The ancient Romans wrote about the tribes who lived in these mountains. The most important were the Helvetians. During the 400s, as Rome fell, German tribes took control of the northern part of Switzerland. The Burgundians from France conquered western Switzerland, but the Helvetians, high up in their central mountain villages, remained free and unaffected by much of Europe's history. This is an extraordinarily beautiful part of the world and relatively unspoiled. Lucerne is the largest city in central Switzerland and a great base for touring. During the Middle Ages, Lucerne was a simple fishing village. But when the St. Gothard Pass, connecting northern Europe and Italy, opened in the 1200s, Lucerne became a major staging area. During the early 1800s, English poets showed up in Lucerne and began describing the beauty of the nearby lakes and mountains. The British upper class, always ready for a holiday abroad, made Lucerne a major tourist attraction. In 1903, Joseph Bucher-Dürer purchased a plot of land at the edge of Lake Lucerne and spent the next 3 years overseeing the construction of a luxury hotel, which he called the Palace Lucerne. Bucher-Dürer was born in 1834 into a traditional Swiss family of farmers, which was not his idea of how to earn a living. He was much more interested in using his imagination rather than his hands, and he was completely misunderstood by his family. His mother even described him as a young man too lazy to work. Well, nevertheless, he managed to amass a considerable fortune. He built and owned 10 luxury hotels all over Europe and 6 mountain railways. Not bad. He built his palace right on the lake's tree-lined promenade. The views are magnificent. The lake, the low hills that surround the lake, the peaks of the Alpine mountains in the background. The hotel has 2 restaurants. Les Artistes offers light regional and international dishes, and during the warm months, the tables are outside at the edge of the lake. One of the specialties is roasted or grilled whole fish prepared to order and served at your table. They also have a few of the traditional dishes of Switzerland, like sliced veal Zurich style with crispy rosti potatoes. During the cold months, the restaurant moves inside. Les Artistes decorates its walls with the works of international artists. While I was at the palace, they were displaying the works of David Gerstein. Gerstein's works are 3-dimensional sculptures with a 2-dimensional feel. He starts by drawing the object that interests him, translates the drawing to a computer program, and the computer program uses lasers to cut out the shapes, which he then paints and assembles into the sculpture. Many of his sculptures are produced in a limited edition of 150, and they are available for sale in a hotel. The hotel's other restaurant is called Jasper, and it has been awarded 16 points by the Gomeo Guide and a star from Michelin. The chef is Ulf Braunert, who trained in some of the top restaurants in Europe. His style is basically Mediterranean with accents from Italy and Spain. It's nice to have the Gomeo points and the Michelin star, but I think the greatest compliment to his work comes from the residents of Lucerne, who not only appreciate his cooking, but consider his prices a bargain, especially at lunch. Not something you usually hear about a 1-star restaurant. A signature lunch included tomato mousse with aubergine caviar Bloody Mary, lamb marinated with ginger and yogurt spinach, a parfait of Prosecco with limes and strawberries. There's an outstanding selection on the cheese cart. After all, we are in Switzerland. and a first-class wine cellar. This is a photograph of the lobby area as it looked when the hotel opened over 100 years ago. And this is what it looks like today. It looks and feels much like it did when it opened. The bar area also has much the same look and feel as it did in 1906. In 2005, a spa was added that offers guests the opportunity to relax. And it has an extraordinary approach to pampering. Do you mind? The rooms are large and well decorated, and they look out at the lake and the mountains. The palace is at the edge of Lucerne, and everything is within easy walking distance. Lucerne's 650-foot roofed bridge is the oldest in Europe. Called the Chapel Bridge, it was originally built in the 1300s as part of the city's fortification. The triangular roof supports were used by 17th century painters to present the history of Lucerne and the patron saints of the city. Lucerne's old town is filled with ancient decorated buildings. The paintings present the history of a guild, or a family, or a special event. This building is the site of the first pharmacy in Lucerne. It opened in 1530. The sign over the door reads, "There is no herb that will cure lovesickness." Just across the river is the Baroque Jesuit church, built in the mid-1600s. The robes of Nicholas von Flue, Switzerland's only saint, rest here. His major act was to propose an agreement that regulated the division of spoils among Switzerland's mercenary troops. One of the things you can see from your room at the palace is Mount Pilatus, which has the steepest cogwheel railway in the world. And it will take you to the top, which is 7,000 feet above sea level, and offers some of the most impressive views of the area. And on a clear day, you can see the palace. On the 24th of October, 1907, Emperor Wilhelm of Germany officially opened the Hotel Adlon in Berlin. It was built and owned by Lawrence Adlon, a successful Berlin restaurateur, and it quickly became the social center of the city. The emperor often preferred the Adlon to his own royal chambers. Wealthy aristocratic families sold their winter palaces because they wanted to spend the social season in the suites of the hotel. It was the favorite residence of Charlie Chaplin, Albert Einstein, and President Theodore Roosevelt. It's still the place in town for an important event. I don't know where these people are. The Adlon also developed a reputation as an unofficial neutral territory where differences between individuals, political groups, and even nations were put aside for a few hours. In fact, the Adlon was often referred to as Little Switzerland because of its neutral atmosphere. The most elegant part of modern Berlin is the government and embassy district. There's the Hungarian embassy, the French embassy, the British embassy, and the American embassy, which is squeezed in between two big banks. The Parliament building, the Museum of Ancient Cultures, the cathedral, and the twin churches. The new Adlon is at the edge of that district, next to the Brandenburg Gate. and within walking distance of Berlin's major museums and attractions. During the late 1990s, it was completely rebuilt in the classic style that made it famous. It's run by the Kempinski Hotel Group, which is responsible for some of the finest hotels in the world. If you are a king or a queen, the head of a nation, a famous rock star, or the president of a giant corporation that's about to declare bankruptcy because of your greed and incompetent management, then personal security can be a big issue, especially when you travel. In response to the problem, the Adlon has built a security wing. Its presidential suite is not only one of the most luxurious in any hotel, but the security is probably the safest in Europe.
Also the bulletproof windows.
Bulletproof windows. That makes me feel much better, you know. It was designed to meet the latest requirements of the German Federal Police for a level 1 security area. The presidential suite comes with its own butler. The living room has a magnificent view of the Brandenburg Gate and a nice dish of chocolates. There's a private study with a secure fax machine and high-speed internet access, and a nice dish of chocolates. A large bedroom with a 4-poster bed and another nice dish of chocolates. An elegant bathroom with its own sauna, but no chocolates. Private dining room, no chocolates. A kitchen area, again, no chocolates. So if luxury, security, and really good chocolates are important to you, this is the place. And at only $15,000 a night, it's a deal. If you're just a regular person and you love good food, then you can dine in public at one of the hotel's excellent restaurants. The Adlon is one of the few hotels in the world that has 3 restaurants, each with a Michelin star. The name of this restaurant is Ma, which is the Chinese word for horse. There's a bar that specializes in a drink that's similar to vodka, a section that specializes in Chinese dishes, and one that concentrates on the cuisine of Japan. The chef, Tim Raue, takes the traditional recipes of these cultures and gives them a very personal twist. One of his signature dishes is charcoal grilled veal with truffle sauce, leeks, and horseradish. Gabriele is the 1-star Michelin restaurant with an Italian menu. The chef is Bjorn Alexander Panek, and his signature dish is seafood and roasted bread. The 3rd Michelin-starred restaurant is the Lawrence Adlon, named after the founder of the hotel. The maître d' is Boris Hebel. A small and intimate room, an outstanding selection of wine and liqueurs, and classic French cuisine. The chef is Thomas Nesser. For over 100 years, the Adlon restaurant has been famous for their duck recipes, and they still make a traditional pressed duck. And they have a great Sunday brunch. If you're in need of a snack in the afternoon, there is tea time. It was the English who got serious about introducing tea to Europe. Tea was a pleasant drink, and because England controlled and taxed the tea trade from India and China, it was a great source of revenue for the king. England also dominated and taxed the Caribbean trade in sugar, So if they could get you to put sugar in your tea, they really had it made. High tea became the drink of the English upper class and was soon accepted by many aristocrats in Europe. Over the years, I've seen some pretty classy tea times in great hotels. The hotel has 2 tea masters who will offer you a considerable amount of advice, which is very helpful since they have over 24 different teas on their menu, ranging from a classic Darjeeling to an extremely rare Guzan, which is only harvested once each spring during a tight 10-day period. The traditional tea service comes with scones and little cakes, sandwiches, fruit tartlets, clotted cream, jam, and a nice plate of chocolates. And if you're planning a small private party, the perfect room is the Winter Garden. Gee, I was almost sure I emailed everybody about the date. The Adlon also has a shop that sells many of the things that you encounter during a stay. You can buy a mattress like the one you sleep on, and the bed linens, the chocolates, the Adlon cake, the Adlon wine, and the Adlon bathrobe. Of course, anything you buy can be shipped home, which raises a more complex issue. Why would you want to go home? Switzerland is divided into a series of states called cantons. The primary canton in the Lake Geneva region is known as the Canton de Vaud. Its southern border runs along the shore of Lake Geneva. Its western and northern frontiers pass through farmland and small villages in the Jura Mountains that share a border with France. And much of its eastern edge rises into the Alps. The largest city in the Canton de Vaud is Lausanne, and it has been inhabited for tens of thousands of years. The hill at the top of the city was once capped with a Roman fort. Today it's the base for the largest Gothic cathedral in Switzerland. Lausanne is also home to one of my favorite hotels, the Lausanne Palace Hotel and Spa, which is run by Jean-Jacques Gower.
How are you? I didn't see you so far. How are you?
In 1990, Gower became president of the leading hotels of the world, an organization that monitors the quality of some of the finest resorts and hotels. He literally grew up in the hotel business. His family owned and operated hotels in Switzerland, Spain, and Greece. Today, he's also the general manager of the Lausanne Palace.
When I took over the Lausanne Palace back in 1996, it was like a sleeping princess, and it needed a big hug to wake it up. The first thing we did was to create a typical Parisian brasserie here at the hotel with a very relaxed atmosphere, a lively place where people sit at the bar and enjoy their time. In a big city like Paris, London or New York, you can rely on your guests from outside, from other towns, other countries. In a small town like Lausanne, it is very important that you address yourself to the locals, to the local community. They have to feel at home here, and that's exactly what we did here at this hotel.
The Côte Jardin restaurant is like a giant greenhouse. It has a buffet at breakfast, lunch, and dinner with Mediterranean and Italian food. The Table d'Edgar is a Michelin-starred gourmet restaurant with an unusual private table above the kitchen. There's a huge mirror that lets you see the chefs at work. My personal favorite was the Palace Sushi Zen, which is under the direction of 3 talented Japanese chefs. Each studied the art of sushi for at least 10 years before they became licensed masters. They've begun to blend European and Japanese ingredients. Eel, topped with a slice of camembert cheese, slightly melted. One of J.J. Gower's stars is Kevin Tremola, the head concierge.
Le concierge Kevin, bonjour. Oui, bonjour, et vous-même? Oui.
His job is to get you anything you need. Kevin has been taking care of demanding guests for over 20 years. He worked all over Europe and has the unique distinction of having created the position of concierge on the Queen Mary 2. He loves a challenge. As I was getting off the plane in Switzerland, my favorite glasses fell out of my pocket, and I was unaware of it until I got through customs, and of course, there was no going back. I pleaded with people at customer service. I begged the airlines lost and found. I even offered a bribe of chocolate. Nothing. When I got to the Lausanne Palace Hotel, I mentioned it to Kevin, and 2 days later, miraculously, my glasses were back. Cool glasses, aren't they? The palace also has an outstanding spa, indoor heated swimming pool, serious exercise equipment, a jacuzzi that reduces the tension in your muscles, a relaxation terrace, and of course, massage and body care treatments. I like the one where they make believe you're sushi and wrap you in seaweed. Combine that with a few glasses of sake and my tension is gone, along with most of my other cognitive senses. Downhill from the Lausanne Palace is the Chateau Ushi, which is a sister hotel of the Lausanne Palace. It's set in a beautiful park on the edge of the lake. The ancient building was stripped down to its bare walls. Anything of architectural value was saved, at which point a small 50-room hotel was built into the structure. At one time, the chateau was surrounded by a moat filled with water to protect it against invaders. The moat is remembered by a little indoor brook, sort of. The Lausanne Palace runs the restaurant La Grappa, which specializes in the foods and wines of Tuscany. I've been coming to this restaurant for over 40 years, and I am always impressed with their work. Their pasta is homemade every day. The steaks are grilled Florentine style. There's a wood-burning fireplace and a great, not overpriced wine list. When it comes to a relaxed vacation, good food, excellent wine, and beautiful surroundings, the Lake Geneva area is always one of my favorites. For Travels and Traditions, I'm Burt Wolf. Class, always ready for a holiday abroad, made Lucerne a major tourist attraction. In 1903, Joseph Bucher-Dürer purchased a plot of land at the edge of Lake Lucerne and spent the next 3 years overseeing the construction of a luxury hotel, which he called the Palace Lucerne. Bucher-Dürer was born in 1834 into a traditional Swiss family of farmers, which was not his idea of how to earn a living. He was much more interested in using his imagination rather than his hands, and he was completely misunderstood by his family. His mother even described him as a young man too late. These are the Swiss Alps, and people have been living in, on, and around them for over 10,000 years. The ancient Romans wrote about the tribes who lived in these mountains. The most important were the Helvetians. During the 400s, as Rome fell, German tribes took control of the northern part of Switzerland. The Burgundians from France conquered western Switzerland. But the Helvetians, high up in their central mountain villages, remained free and unaffected by much of Europe's history. This is an extraordinarily beautiful part of the world and relatively unspoiled. Lucerne is the largest city in central Switzerland and a great base for touring. During the Middle Ages, Lucerne was a simple fishing village. But when the St. Gothard Pass, connecting northern Europe and Italy, opened in the 1200s, Lucerne became a major staging area. During the early 1800s, English poets showed up in Lucerne and began describing the beauty of the nearby lakes and mountains. The British upper lazy to work. Well, nevertheless, he managed to amass a considerable fortune. He built and owned 10 luxury hotels all over Europe and 6 mountain railways. Not bad. He built his palace right on the lake's tree-lined promenade. The views are magnificent. The lake, the low hills that surround the lake, the peaks of the Alpine mountains in the background.